Hi, my name's Trey Brimmer. I'm with Mitel. Today I'm going to go over the 6920 IP phone with you. We're going to talk about specific buttons to your organization, make sure you understand kind of the lay of the land, as well as go over voicemail briefly. Here's a couple things to remember moving forward. You'll need to dial a 9 to get an outside line. You'll need to dial the area code and the phone number for outgoing calls. But you will not need the 1 for long distance or 800 dialing. If you do dial 1 before dialing a long distance, it'll still work, but you no longer need to do that. Your voicemail box and your HOTDESK, which is a feature I'll show you, the PIN is 1111 until you set up your voicemail. When you set up your voicemail, it'll ask you to provide a new PIN or passcode to get in, and that will also be your HOTDESK passcode. So if you set it to 1234, that'll not only be your voicemail passcode to get in, but it'll also be your HOTDESK PIN. Let's take a look at the phone. Here it is. This is a 6920 IP phone. We're going to start at the very top of the phone and work our way down. We'll go over all the features and how it works and operates to be able to do normal functions like transfer or hold or that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and start looking first at the navigation key. This is a silver round key that you'll see on the phone. This will help you navigate through things like call history or contacts, or if you're going through any of the settings. It comes into play here and there. The way it works is this very center is select. So if you scroll over to, say, caller ID, a name or a number, you want to go ahead and call it, you can hit the center of the key, it'll dial. It'll also offer it in the soft key, I'll show you that. And the outside ring is for navigation up, down, left, or right. How to HOTDESK into your phone. So it's a feature I was telling you about earlier. Of course, the default PIN is going to be 1111, and the login ID is going to be your extension number. The way this feature works is it allows you to move to any desk within the organization, and you can log into that phone and take it over. If it's for a day or a project, or even if you're moving to another phone, you'd be able to just HOTDESK into it, and it will have all your buttons and your extension, and if someone dials your direct dial number or dials your extension, it'll ring at the phone. So it basically takes over that phone. You will be logged in initially, so when the phone is placed, you'll already be HOTDESKed in, but it's a feature you may want to take advantage of going forward. So let me show you how easy it is to HOTDESK into the phone. First, this is what a phone looks like when it's not HOTDESKed in. When it's nothing. So if you ever see this, the kind of telltale signs of not being HOTDESKed into, or if no one's logged into the phone, you'll notice that it'll have up top the extension number, your extension number, with a pound as a second digit. It also will say locked on the display, and you'll see that the soft key down at the bottom says HOTDESK, so it's offering to log you in. So when it's in this status, you will not be able to dial an outside call or receive inbound calls. You can dial 911 or the operator, and that's it. So you'll need to make sure you're HOTDESKed in. You will be initially, but you may want to move to a different phone and HOTDESK into that phone. So this will show you how to do it. It's really simple. You'll just press that HOTDESK key that you see on the soft key. It'll then tell you that no one is logged in. Just hit login, put in your extension number. In my case, and for our purposes here, it's 5200, and hit enter. And then put in your PIN. Initially, your PIN is going to be 1111, but when you go and set up your voicemail for the first time, it'll ask you to set up a passcode or a PIN, and it'll mimic whatever that is. So if I change my PIN when I set up my voicemail to 5502, then that'll be my new PIN for both my HOTDESKing into phones and for my voicemail. So whenever you change that, if you change it often or if you only put it in one time, that'll also be your login for your HOTDESK. So when I put in my initially, we'll just say we haven't set up our voicemail yet, I'll just put in 1111 and hit enter, and it'll log my phone in. And this is what my phone will look like once it's logged in. Um, let's just kind of start at the top of the display and kind of work through it. But you can see initially, once I am logged in completely, now my extension number is up there without the pound in it. I have a little person up there to indicate that I am logged in and I'm HOTDESKed in. And you'll notice rather than saying HOTDESK now, down at the bottom it says log out. So if I ever wanted to go to a conference room phone and take that over for the day because I need to spread out for a project or something, I could go to that conference room phone, hit log out, and log myself into the phone as my extension, and then all my calls come to me and all my buttons that I've programmed or any button that I have on my phone will work. Okay, so let's kind of look at the display. I'll kind of show you kind of what's going on here. Let's start at the very top where you see the extension number 5200. So that's where your extension number should display, so you'll know it's your phone. And initially when we hook it up and it's all pinned and everything, that's where that should be displayed at. Going over to the right hand side, you can see that little person's there to indicate that you're logged in and ready to go. There's a little indication here of missed calls. It's a little ricochet arrow. Mine happens to have 4 missed calls, but if you had 1 or 20, it'll show how many missed calls you've had. So if you go to lunch and you come back and you see that indicator, you can check your call history. I'll show you where that is, and that'll show you the 4 calls or whatever you missed. The little boxes in green are just indicating that it's connected to the network and it's green, so it's good to go. If you ever are having problems hearing or the phone doesn't seem to be working right, if you look at that little boxed area and it has a red or a yellow, maybe there's a network issue going on, and it's a good thing to communicate with your IT department or your support department. Going below that, when we're looking at the left-hand side, you see where it says My Phone. That's your first inbound line key. So when a call comes into your phone, someone dials your direct dial number, which will match the last 4 of your extension number. When someone dials that, it'll ring to that key first. If you have a second call come in, it'll go where you see line 2. Now those say My Phone and line 2, but when a call comes in, it'll replace that information with caller identification information, so it'll tell you the caller ID number. And in the big display area below the time and date, it'll show you the caller ID there as well. So if you're on a call and another call comes in, it'll then ring, give you a little ring indicator and tell you the new caller ID of what's ringing in. Right now you're looking at the phone, it's idle, so there's no information, there's no lights or anything going on. It's just kind of how the phone would sit if you weren't on a call or a call wasn't coming in. You have a couple blank keys on the phone. Those can be for you to program to be an outside number or an internal extension. Really easy to do. I'll kind of show you how to do that in a second. And then you have call forward on and off. So you'll set call forwarding, a number up for call forwarding in the settings, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But this, once you set it up initially, this is where you can go and turn that on and off. So if I put my cell phone into my call forward settings, then I can daily just turn it on and off and have it forward to my cell phone or not. Or if I have it like at lunch, I leave and someone covers me and I need them to cover my phone number, I can forward that phone to somebody else within the organization. So that's how that works. So it's an on and off for call forwarding. And then you have a D&D key, which stands for Do Not Disturb, which shuts your phone off for all inbound call traffic, internal or outside. If someone's calling your direct dial number or transferred to your phone, it'll all go straight to your voicemail box rather than ring your phone. So at the end of the day, if you hit it, that way if anyone calls after hours, they go straight in. They don't have to hear a lot of rings, or if you're on vacation or off for the day. It's a good habit to kind of get into. That way, if you need to check your voicemail from the outside world, it'll go straight to voicemail when you call your direct dial number rather than ring a bunch of times. You'll notice in the center, starting at the top, it has the time and date. That'll always display. And then down below, it'll say redial and give you the last number that you dialed out. So if you hit the redial soft key, and when I say soft keys, I mean those very bottom 4 keys that are below the display. When you hit that, that's the number it's dialing. Now that soft key area, those 4 keys, are dynamic. So the display will change depending on the conditions of the phone. Right now, when we're looking at it, the phone is idle. So it's offering you, hey, redial, you can call somebody, or you can log out of the phone. But as we go along, you'll notice it changes. So when calls come in, it'll allow us to answer. When we've answered the call, it'll allow us to transfer it or set up a conference call. So very dynamic, and that's where you're going to look to transfer calls or set up a conference call. So keep that in mind. So that's what it looks like. Now, when you look down just below the redial phone number that's there, you'll see that there's a couple little dots. One is blue. That's because you're on the first page. You can use a navigation key at this point to go over to the right-hand side, and it will move you from one page to another. There's nothing on the second page, so when you scroll over, you will have 6 additional blank keys that you can program. So that could be someone's cell phone number, someone's office number, your home number, or maybe some extensions that you call a lot. Now these, if you program an extension in any of these, they won't show you if the person is on or off the phone, because there is a possibility if you hit a button when it's blinking to call somebody, it could pick up their line. So if that's a feature that you need added, you'll just have to communicate that and we can add it in as a feature for you. Otherwise, you can program them to be a extension that you can dial by hitting it once, or you can program it as an outside number. To program one of these keys, these blanks that you see, you just press the button. It's a lot like your car stereo, most people's car stereo. You hold the button down for a few seconds and it'll bring up another display that looks like this, and I can go ahead and program that key. I can label it whatever I want using the keys on my telephone. I would spell out the first or last name or nickname or whatever I want to put in there. And then I would use my navigation key to scroll down and put in the phone number the way I would dial it from my desk. So if I was going to have my home number on there, I would put a 9, area code and phone number. And then I can make a determination if I want to mark it private. It's a little hard to see, but if you see there's a little box that you can check mark and mark it as private. All that means is you'll only see the label. You won't see the phone number. So if I wanted my home phone number on my phone, but I don't want people looking at my phone getting my home phone number, I can mark it as private. Otherwise, you can see the name and number on the button. So that's a way you can go ahead and do it. Once you put all the information in, you hit the save and away you go. So really easy to program those keys up and pretty quick. Let's talk about incoming calls. So what does it look like? We saw the phone when it was idle, but what does it look like when a call is on its way in? So here we go. Here comes a phone call from someone internal, but it would look the same if it was an outside call ringing in as well. It'll show you in the center, you can see it's showing you caller identification, name, and first and last name and the extension number. If it's an outside caller, it would show the name of whatever's outpulsed. Maybe it's a company name or a person's name, who knows, and their phone number. And you'll notice that on the key that used to say my phone up there now has the caller ID for the extension number. So and it tells you it's ringing in, and you'll hear an audible ring. If you're wearing a headset, you can hit the answer key there and it would answer it on the headset. I'll show you how to kind of set that up as we go along. If you hit it and you don't have a headset, you're answering it on speaker. So obviously probably the best way to do it is to pick up the handset at this point. So there's the phone call ringing in. You see there's a little person up there. You only see that little icon when it's someone internal calling. So that's what that's about. So you went ahead and answered the call, and this is what it looks like. And like I was telling you earlier, that gray area, you could see it's highlighted in yellow there, or kind of circled in yellow, is dynamic. So it has changed. Now that I've answered the call, what do I want to do with the call? I can transfer it, or I can add a user, which is basically setting up a conference call, or I can end the call. So now that I've answered it, those are my options that it allows me. There are other buttons on the phone that I'll show you to do things like mute or hold, that sort of thing. But on this soft display, these are the options you have. So let's go ahead and talk about kind of transferring a call. So we have the call in, like we did before, and we want to go ahead and transfer it. So we're going to use these soft keys to do that transfer. Now there's kind of 2 ways to transfer. One is a transfer where I just hit transfer, I dial your extension, I'll hit transfer again to complete it, and that'll be me just sending the call to you. The other one is basically the same thing, but it's announcing the call. So I'd hit transfer, dial your extension, and basically stay on the line, and I can have a conversation with you. The person who was calling would automatically be on hold as soon as I hit the transfer key. So they won't hear our conversation, and we can make a determination if I'm completing the transfer or maybe going back to the person asking for more information, or maybe canceling the transfer completely and starting over, sending it somewhere else, or just relaying information. So let's kind of talk about that. Here we are on a call with Justin. He needs to be transferred. So I'm going to hit the transfer key, and I'm going to dial the extension or even outside number if you wanted to. I need to send this call to. So I go ahead and hit transfer, dial the extension. Next thing I see is that the display below has changed again. You can see here that Justin is on hold, is holding now, and I've dialed 5570, and I'm talking to Bob right now. Hey, Bob, do you want this call? Now to complete it, if he said yes, I would just hit the transfer key again to complete it. But you can see that I can make other determinations. One thing I can do is join the calls together. I don't intend on setting up a conference call, but when I hit transferred and I dialed in Bob, he said, hey, can you stay on the line and we can talk to this person together? Then I could join us together for that conference call. And create a conference call, even though my original intent was just to transfer it. So you can make kind of decisions on the fly here, on if you're going to transfer it or kind of join us all together. The other features that you see there are trade call. Now, a trade call will allow you to talk back to Justin, who's currently on hold, if I needed to get more information from him without canceling the transfer and starting over. So let's just say I hit transfer and I dialed Bob's extension, and Bob picks up and says, I say, hey, Justin's on the phone for you. And you said, Justin with who? What company? Who is it? I could say, hey, hold on, I'll check. I can hit trade call, go back to Justin, say, hey, Justin, what company are you with? And you would tell me, or Justin would tell me, and I can hit trade call again and go back to you. I can tell you the information. And if you're satisfied and you're ready to take the call, I can hit transfer and it completes the transfer. So that trades between the two callers, without canceling the transfer and having to start over. Let's just say I hit transfer and I dial Bob's extension 5570. It automatically puts Justin on hold. And say Bob says I can't take the call. Hey, could you just tell him to call me back? I don't want him to go to my voicemail. Just have him call me back in an hour. I gotta be on this call. Okay. Well, then I can go back to held, which is the last key on the bottom, and it will cancel the transfer and just take me back to Justin, the original caller, so I could start over. I could retransfer him to voicemail, or I can go transfer him somewhere else, or I can just relay the information and hang up. So there's lots of options when you're doing a transfer. The cleanest, obviously, is I hit transfer, I dial the extension, and I hit transfer again, and it sends it. So it makes it pretty easy. But you have other options while you're in the middle of that if you need to make a move, Trade just jumps between the calls, and back to held cancels the transfer. Or if you were setting up a conference call, it would cancel that and jump me back. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Okay, let's kind of talk about, and there's me hitting the transfer key a final time to complete it. So let's talk about setting up a conference call. Now, it's really almost the identical same thing. So once you've mastered one, you can master both. And remember, when I was showing you earlier, here we are with the call that Justin just called in. But this time, our intention is to set up a conference call. But you did see earlier that when I hit transfer, it offers to add the people together or create a conference. So it really doesn't matter which button you hit. It's more just your intention to make it a little easier, add a user rather than having to hit transfer, and that it basically takes you to the same screen is what I'm getting to. So let's just talk about where we're at, where we received a call in. Justin has called in, and I need to, or I've called out to Justin. It doesn't matter either way. And now I need to add another person in for this conference call. Let's just say we're doing a 3-party conference. On a conference calling, though, you can do up to 8 people, you and 7 others on a conference call. So I can add in up to 7 other users or people, internal, outside, it doesn't matter. But I can add them in as I move along. So in our case, we're just going to set up a quick 3-party conference. The way I'm going to do that is, Justin's on the line. I'm going to hit the Add User button. And then I'm going to dial, in this case, Bob, but it could be an outside number, it doesn't matter. So I have dialed, hit add user, I dialed Bob's extension. It looks like this now that I've done that. You can see just like a transfer, Justin is on hold, and I could hit transfer and complete it just to transfer it to Bob. But in this case, I'm going to join us all together. So all I have to do is hit join calls, and we'll all be joined together in a 3-party conference. Notice also trade call is there. So if I needed to go back to Justin and ask a question, I could without canceling the conference I'm setting up. I could go back to held. Let's just say I reach out to somebody and it's a busy signal or it goes to voicemail. I don't want to add that into my conference, so I can go back to held. And what's nice about it is if you have 4 or 5 people already on the line and I hit back to held, it'll just cancel the one thing I was just doing. So if I was trying to add in Bob and it was going to voicemail, but I had 3 other people already on the conference, it would just take me to the other 3 people on the conference. I wouldn't have to start over. So that's what's a little bit different than a transfer, but nice about this. So because you're going to be reaching out to people when you're setting up conferences, so it's really possible that you reach out and you get a busy signal or a voicemail or whatever. So in our case, we're going to join these together. So we got Justin on hold because when we hit transfer, it automatically put him there. We've dialed Bob. I'm talking to Bob. Hey, Bob, can you hop on the conference? He says, sure. I'm going to hit join calls together. And then it puts us in a 3-party conference on the display to let us know that all 3 of us are on the phone. And then you can see below, it's changed again. I have transfer still, so I could transfer it over to Bob still if I wanted to, even though we're all connected. So you could see how you could use that kind of as a soft transfer where I have somebody say who's upset or somebody who needs me to introduce. I could introduce you to Justin to Bob, say, Bob, this is Justin. He'll help you from here, and then hit transfer. And that way it's announced with all of us on the phone. I can also now add a user, so I can go to a 4-party conference if I wanted to. So once we're connected all together, I would say, hey, hold on, everybody, I'm going to add the next person. I hit add user and do the same process again where I dial an outside number or an extension number, and then I will join it together again. I can also split this conference, which means I split everybody off onto their own line. Say someone is saying something I can't have them say, it's information, it shouldn't be out there. While they're saying it, I hit split. And then it will then say trade just like it did before, and I can go to each person by trading to each person on the call and find the person who was saying whatever and talk to them. I can also leave the call, and you would only have to hit this if you were the only person internally on the call. But what this allows you to do is if, say, my boss calls me and says, hey, I'm on my cell phone, can you add in these 3 people for a conference call? I could get it all set up and then leave the call at the end of that so I don't have to be part of a long conference call. So that's what that's about. So that's how the conference works and the transfer, and you can see they're very similar. So once you hit transfer or add user, you are basically going the same path. You can make a decision at the last minute to transfer it or to set up a conference call. And it's very easy to do. What I do recommend is if you're going to, this is going to be a part of your world, I'm going to definitely be setting up conferences, you're thinking to yourself, I would recommend that you conference in a couple people in the office and that way you get a comfort for it before you do your first conference call. It's very easy to do, but explaining it and actually doing it are 2 different things. So I would definitely recommend trying that. Okay, sorry about that. So let's talk about the next thing, fixed keys. Now these are going to be the keys on either side of the keypad. So when we're looking at the phone, they're basically separated between the keypads. When you're looking at the phone on the left-hand side, those are all more feature-based, things like settings on the phone and your volume control and contacts and call history, that sort of thing. Where the right side is more call handling features, the things that are missing from the soft display up top. We had transfer and conference, but the things we didn't see were things like mute and hold and that sort of thing. So that's where these come into play. Let's start over on the left-hand side first and work our way down. So here we are at the left-hand side. This is what the little icons mean. So let's take a look at that. The first one is your contacts key. Contacts are going to be either corporate, internal to the the system, so anyone with a phone, or personal, and these are going to be ones that you add into the system. Okay, so there's those two kinds of contacts. So let's take a look at both. First one is your personal. You can see it's kind of highlighted in blue. Personal contacts are going to be ones that you add in. You can see down below it says add new. And you could add in a new contact, put in their name, similar to how we were going to set up one of those buttons. You put in the name, you put in the phone number, but you could put in multiple phone numbers. So I could have someone's cell phone number and home number and that sort of thing all listed. Okay. So those will be ones that maybe you don't want to give a button to, but they're important enough that you want to go ahead and keep it. The next one is your corporate contacts, and that's going to be a little different. It's you can see there's a list there, but you won't have a list initially. It'll be blank, and that confuses some people. But when you press search, if you put in at least one letter of the last name, you'll be able to search for people with matching last names. So if I put in a B, I would find all the B's within the organization, and I could scroll down using my navigation key to find the right one and hit the center of the key, or hit dial will show up once I scroll over. I'll show you that. But that's how I could look for people. Obviously, the more letters of the last name you put in, the closer you're going to get. So spell out the last name, and you can look up people, and you'll see not only their name, but their extension for future reference. Okay? So that's your search, and you got to backspace and reset it if you spell something wrong, you know, that sort of thing. If I keep rolling over, then this is on the personal one, but if I scroll over using my navigation key to a name on my personal, if I keep going, this is where you can see the rest of their information. So I could add, once I add that information in as a new user, I can scroll over and pick what I want to call. So that's what that is, dial or edit it. I can add more, you know, mobile and work, and maybe they have a home phone number I want to throw in there. Okay. Next key down is your call history. This is going to be the last 20 calls that you've either missed, that you've made, or you received. The first list is just everything mishmashed together in the time order it came in. So this will be missed calls, received calls, and it starts at the top and works its way down. So the top is the last call you received. But if you needed to, hey, I need to look at the last one I dialed, then you can go to outgoing and you'll see the last, all the outgoing ones. And the little symbols match, so you can actually look and see that what's missed and what's received from the all list by looking over to the little categories. But this will give you an ability to quickly look up people. And if I scrolled over using the navigation key and highlighted one of those people, I could dial them back. What I can also do from here is add them to my personal list, which is really nice. So let's just say someone calls me and I'm like, ooh, I need to save that number. I could add it to my personal list. And when you scroll over once, you'll notice that it allows you to add as contact, and that's going to be in your personal contacts. So I scrolled over there, and now I can hit add contact, and it'll add in the name and the phone number as it came in from caller ID. And I can go in and edit that if I need to, but at least I have it initially where I can call them back. Okay, so pretty easy on the call history, last 20, so you can look at that. Here's your voicemail key. This is the key you're going to press to get to your voicemail. The first time you go into your voicemail, first time you press the key, it's going to have you set up your voicemail box, which will include setting up your new PIN. We talked about that initially being 1111. And then when you get in, it's going to have you set up your name and your new passcode and a greeting of some sort. So it basically puts you into a tutorial, which will help you understand how the voicemail works and also get you set up. So you'll want to do that pretty quick. If the phone is live on your desk, but we haven't cut over yet, you can go in and set up your voicemail and get that all done beforehand. But I do recommend you get it done fairly quick because you won't be in any company directories until you've set up your voicemail. So you want to do that. So there's your key to access that. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. Here's your settings key. This will allow you to go into the different settings on the phone. There's a couple of big ones I went ahead and set up so we could look at together. But most everything is set up by default. There's a lot of weird settings within there because these phones could be purposed in so many different ways. Some of the stuff you'll never touch or need to know about, but I'll show you the highlights. First one is the audio. So the one thing I find annoying is that the default ring is very sing-songy, and probably because I've had a phone for a long time, I'm used to the regular standard ring. But you can adjust the ring for both internal and outside inbound calls. So you can change the ring so you can tell when an inbound and outbound, eventually you'll get used to that ring. So what you do is when you hit the little gear key we just did, it'll bring you to the settings, and then you just go left or right until you find the one that says audio. Once you highlight it, it'll tell you it's audio rather than tell you, it'll let you know what it is basically. So this is the first one I would look at. When you select that, it's going to take you to internal ring or external ring, and you can choose. When you scroll over using the navigation key over to the different names, you know, Bloom and all that stuff, it'll play the tune. So you can scroll down until you find the one you like. When you get towards the bottom, that's the more classic type ringtones that you're probably used to. So you can choose for internal or external. It's nice to change your ring if you're in an area that's around other people. So that way, if you're at the copier, you can, oh, my phone's ringing, you could tell. So once you select it, you hit save and away you go. So that's one of the items. The other settings items you might need to do is in audio also. Rather than select it, you can scroll down and you can change the audio path from your speaker to a headset. So if you have your own headset you're using and you plug it into the back of the phone and you would like to hit like the speaker key and have it answer, then you can change it from this where it would be default at speaker and change it to headset. So when you hit the button, you're on headset. The next feature is your display you may want to change. This probably just bothers me, but after 5 minutes, the phone looks like this. It shows the time and date, but basically it puts on this screensaver on your display. I don't like that always on because you got to hit a button to wake it up all the time when you want to make a call and stuff. When a call comes in, it does wake it up. So if you don't care about it, that's fine. It might be just me, but I like to kind of give myself a little time. So what I always do is I choose the screensaver. You can see here's the settings for brightness. It's all set like right at the middle for most of it. So I always up my brightness level, and then I'll go down to screensaver, and you can make it up to 59 minutes. You can't do 100 and something, but you can do 59 minutes. And that'll give it a good long time before it kind of goes to that sleep mode and then dims the display. So there's a place where you change that. Next one I want to talk about is call forward. So we talked when we were looking at the display initially about how that's an on and off button. This is where you'll set up your call forwarding. So you have choices. You could forward it to the pilot number to voicemail, okay? And then when I turn that on, it would send all my calls to voicemail if I wanted to, but do not disturb kind of does that anyway, so you don't really need that. But if you need to forward it to an outside source, either another person's extension or maybe your cell phone number, you can put your cell phone number in here. So I would select call forward and it'll take you to this screen. And usually you just want to use the always. And you just type in the number like you would dial it, 9 and your area code phone number. And then you will hit save and it'll activate for always all of them. You can see you can do some conditional forwarding, but it becomes kind of complex, internal or external. If you're busy, you can have it forward to another number, or if no answer, meaning it'll ring your phone rather than go to voicemail, then it goes. So if you never want calls to go to voicemail, but when you're at your phone, you'd like a chance to grab it, you might want to use the no answer internal and no answer external and put in your cell phone then. Then it'll ring your phone the 3 or 4 times and then it heads out to your cell phone. So basically this is where you throw your number into for your forwarding button on the top. Once I have my number in there and I hit save, then I can go to my front, my idle page when I'm on it and just turn that on and off whenever I want. Okay, this is your volume control. Each piece of volume on the phone is separate. So when the phone is ringing, if I don't pick it up right away, I can go ahead and adjust the ring volume. If I pick up the handset, I'm adjusting that. If I have a headset, I can adjust that by turning it on. So real easy, you just activate the thing you want to turn, adjust the volume for. Here, now we're going to talk about the right-hand side of the phone. Now, again, this is more call handling type stuff. First one is hang up, and you'll use that if you are wearing a headset, and it is the very bottom key is kind of the answer on a headset. Otherwise, hang up you don't really need. If you're using the handset, when you hang up the phone, you're hanging it up, so you don't have to hit that. It's not really a release key. It's just for people who are wearing the headsets, so they can go ahead and hit that key rather than accidentally hit the speaker or whatever again. This is redial list. So before on the display it said redial and gave you the last number you dialed out. What this key does is it takes you to your call history and your outgoing call list. So if you wanted to call back the person who didn't call last but called 2 calls ago, then you can press that button. It'll take you to your call history and already take you down to your outgoing, and then you can just use your navigation key to scroll over and choose somebody to other than the last person to dial. If it was the last person, then you just hit the button on your display. Here's your hold key. It looks like a little pause key, so that's what you're going to press to hold a call. When you press hold, it looks like this on the display. You see up top, it's where that extension 5565 is. It's kind of an orange and white little pause. That actually blinks. You'll see a little more action than I'm able to show you, but you'll see that blinking, so you'll know that that's on hold. And to recover it, you'll just hit the button next to the held line, and you've recovered it. Okay. This is your mute key. It mutes the handset or the speaker or a headset if you're wearing a headset. When it's lit, it's muted. So if you need to sneeze, cough, whatever, you just hit the button, hit it again, you're back in the action. So one button hit, like everything on the phone, is pretty much a toggle. And then the next key down is your speaker key or a headset. Now you don't have to hit speaker to be on speakerphone. You can just leave the handset in the cradle and start dialing a 9 or whatever, or dial an extension, and you're automatically on your way there to dialing out. If you're wearing a headset and you change that audio path that I showed you in the settings, then you can use that to answer your headset calls, and then the very top key would be to hang up. If you just hit the speaker key, it just toggles between the handset and the speaker. It doesn't really hang up. So keep that in mind. Okay. Let's talk about the voicemail. I showed you the key a little earlier. I am going to remind you that the PIN to set up the voicemail is 1111 again. So that's your initial PIN. It's also your HOTDESK PIN until you set up your voicemail. Now, once I set up my go into my voicemail the first time and go through the tutorial, it's going to insist that I change that passcode. Once I change that passcode, it's going to then be both my HOTDESK login and my PIN for my voicemail. Okay. This is a sheet that I'm going to provide. Up top where it says Mitel, I'll also put a reminder up there of the initial passcode. Rather than kind of tell you everything that the voicemail does, I'm just going to kind of show you how to navigate this information, so you'll be able to kind of look at it if you need reference. There's not a lot of mystery to the voicemail. If you know how to press the button and you remember your PIN, you're going to navigate through the voicemail just fine, because it's only offering you things that are available to you. Really, the voicemail does 3 things. You can play a message, old or new, doesn't matter. Or you can make a message to send out to people. You can also make a message by just calling someone's extension, and when it goes to their voicemail, you're making a message that way. But in this case, you don't want to ring their phone, then you can go through here and create a message and send it along to that person. And then the last thing is just changing your personal options or user options. Once you set up your voicemail, maybe you go, "Ooh, I didn't like the way my greeting sounded." You could quickly go in, change your greeting, change your name, change your passcode, repeat the whole tutorial if you wanted to. All easy stuff to do. So that's what that is. So when you're looking at the sheet, the boxed area are always just to access your voicemail box. You know, I can do it from my own phone by hitting my voicemail key and then putting in my passcode. I can do it from another person's phone by hitting the voicemail key, pressing star, putting in my own mailbox number, and then hitting star again and putting in my password. I can do it from outside. There's 2 ways outside. There's an outside backdoor number, And then there's also a just calling your own direct dial number. When it rings your phone, you hit star. It'll ask for your passcode and your end. So it's very easy. That's probably the easiest way, is just to call yourself. That's why that do not disturb comes in handy, because if you were going to call from the outside, you don't have to listen to a bunch of rings. But the boxed area is just telling you different ways to get in. The rest of it, over to the right hand side, is just kind of how the voicemail flows. And the reason why the sheet's put together, it does tell you all this stuff just so you can maneuver through it quickly. So if you didn't want to wait to hear the whole message before you delete it or discard it, you can just go ahead and look at the sheet and realize the D or the 3 key will delete or discard the message. So it's just a quick way to access it, but it works the same as probably all voicemails do. When I play a message, after it's done, I can play it again if I wanted to. I can give it to another user. So if it belongs to somebody else, I can keep it. I can delete it or discard it. Or I can go ahead and answer the person who called me. It would call back the caller ID for an outside caller, or it calls an internal extension. So if I can't wait and don't want to hang up the phone and dial, I can quickly do it. Or if I'm calling from my cell phone or something and I want to not have to hold the piece of paper in my lap while I drive and write down the number, that's a way to do it as well. Making a message, you can create messages. If you hit 6 when you're in voicemail, and then put in the mailbox number you want to send a message to, you can just record a message, and then afterwards you can always review it or discard it and re-record it or append it. You can also do delivery options, things like make it confidential. If you do that, it can't be forwarded to anyone else. You can mark things as urgent, which moves it to the front of that person's list. Or you can also mark it for a future delivery. So if I wanted to send you a message, but I don't want you to get it until midnight, I could do that. I think that's more of an option that's for leaving messages for yourself, like reminders, hey, a meeting in 5 minutes or whatever. I guess. I don't know really the purpose. So that's kind of the flow of the voicemail. The voicemail sheet, these will be distributed out, so you guys will have them electronically, and if you need to print it off, kind of keep it with you, you can do so. There'll also be a cheat sheet that I provide that'll kind of go through the phone like I did, but kind of quickly give you a little verbiage so you can quickly transfer a call or set up a button, that kind of thing. And then there'll be a full manual as well. So if you really want to get deep into the phone and understand more about it, you can look in the manual as well for any information. So hopefully that helps you out. And thank you very much for your time, and good luck.